anybody had a dark time in their life? Okay, so this is a perfect talk. And it's perfect because I'm going to talk about principles. I'm going to talk about, I have a little story for you. And then I'm going to hopefully give you some ideas. And I do have a handout, which is how you get out of, how you shine your light. So you get to, I hope I have enough. If not, we can copy some more. And let's see where it goes, okay? So, I'm going to start with a story. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled deep in the lush forest, I had to put two pictures together to make that happen, there lived a wise old woman, and she was known throughout the land for her profound wisdom and her unwavering sense of balance. Anybody have balance these days? No, I don't. No, I'm not. Anyway, her name was Araya, and she understood the importance of embracing all the aspects of life, including truth and wholeness, as it brought to our lives. In the heart of the village was this huge scale, or they called it a teeter-totter, a set of scales. You can all visualize what that is. And it was a symbolic structure for them dedicated to the equilibrium of the tribe. So as long as things were kind of okay, they all were moving forward. See, Araya believed that for fulfilling their existence, the teeter-totter had to exist to be a reminder. Because life takes you different directions, correct? We're all going in many different ways. And that life was not a binary situation of either happiness or sorrow, but rather an interplay of various emotions and experiences. I need a little music. But one day, the village was engulfed in darkness. Nothing worked, and people became fearful. And when they were in fear, they became in despair. And they didn't know how to get out of it. The darkness seemed to consume their families. It consumed the tribe. It consumed the village. And they all yearned for somebody to guide them out of this darkness. And of course, there's Araya. She was the beacon of hope, and she stepped forward to offer their guidance. And here's what she led them into. She said, she reminded the villagers that within every shadow lies a lesson to be learned. Do we love hearing that one? No. Within every challenge lies an opportunity for growth. Darn. To be okay with exploring their fears, which is not easy, right? But to confront them with love and understanding. She taught them that by acknowledging the shadows and embracing them, they could uncover the light that resides within. And I'm going to break a little bit from that in the story and say, being willing to go into the shadow is one of the biggest journeys you'll ever take. And right now, it seems that and interesting enough, I never expect this, but God always leads me in the right direction, is that I'm dealing with a lot of, not in my own life, but other people that are in that shadow. And I'm sure that all of you know somebody that is in a shadow, right? Everybody know somebody? And we want to fix them. We don't need to fix them. We need to just show them that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and encourage them and let them know they're perfect, whole, and complete the way they are. And it's not easy, but that's our job. We do not have to fix their problem. And as I tell you more of the story and as I go on, you'll understand why. So back to Araya's teaching. She discovered that the continuum of life requires an openness to gain perspectives from both sides. From both sides. And that's the thing. And I remember when I was in the middle of my thing, God knows how many years ago, is that, we have blinders on. We don't look at it like oh, I'm never going to get out of this, or that I need to be open. But something inside of me said, and I think this is what she was teaching her village, is that we have to go through it and then let a little light in, little bit more light in, a little bit more and more and more. And then what happens is we start to understand how fear and faith work together. We start to understand the feminine and the masculine. We start to understand the dark and the light, the anger and the peace, the joy and the pain. They're all part of the integral part of the human experience. And when we really get that, then we're not so afraid of it. In fact, I remember in my own life, I would go out and make mistakes at least 3 times. I like to punish myself. But it felt like it. And finally I said, why am I doing that? Why don't I just go to the light? But the other part of that was to create some kind of seek and balance and equilibrium so everybody could embrace the wholeness of all of life within the community. Araya emphasized the importance of spiritual laws, which that's what these are. These are spiritual laws, happen to be science and mind, but they're really spiritual laws of all religions. They're all involved. So here's what the villagers learned. They learned to overcome their fear by cultivating a consciousness of faith. Now, let me ask you a question. If you are in fear, do you think you feel faithful? Do you really believe something's going to happen? No. You're sitting there going, again, the blinders are right there. So that's what you're looking at and saying, no, I'm not sure. But we have to somehow integrate that consciousness. Now, all of you are wise people here, and I know that we've all gone through the darkness because y'all raised your hand. Y'all. God, I'm sounding like somebody on TV. Anyway, and because you have done that, one of the lessons is that you are conscious now of it. So when you go through something that's kind of different, you're not sure how to travel, the one thing you do know is that you are conscious that something good can happen. Something can happen. And that's an important lesson to learn for your own self, is that something can happen. As what they say in the story is they recognized with awareness and understanding they could navigate the unknown and release the sense of ominous. In other words, we learn to live in the mystery. How many people are comfortable living in the mystery? Okay, I got a little wave going on there. I want you to know that the mystery is probably the most fun place you could live. Because when you live in the mystery, you get to observe so many, it's almost like being on the spectrum. You get to see so many different things, and you don't have to evaluate them. You just are there. So living in the mystery sounds a little scary, but it's okay. I'll tell you today it's okay, all right? So eventually the village transformed. Things got better, and the darkness went away, and there was a collective enlightenment. It wasn't just Araya telling them they had to be this way. She taught them to come forward and know, face your fears, talk it out, get through it. Just like us in today, when we talk out our fears, I'll give you an example that happened to me on the way home from camping. But what happens is it dissipates that which we were afraid of. So here's the little story. So we've gone camping a whole week with a puppy that's now this big, and a big dog in a fifth wheeler that's kind of narrow. You know what I mean? You guys travel. You know what it's like to have a few dogs and you trying to get around each other in the refrigerator and all that stuff. And so we're like, okay, this is the sales pitch. I'm thinking, we're talking about this how it's, as we age, it gets a little bit harder to travel. And then when you have 2 dogs and extra, it really had gotten hard. So I thought, okay, I'm going to ask a question. This is the fear factor, right? And I thought before I said it, because I've learned over the years, when you're going to ask a question that you're afraid of, you always say, now you may not like this idea, right? You got that one? So I said, you may not like this idea, but what do you think if we sold the fifth wheel? And Cindy sat there and she's like, that's a great idea. To my surprise, it was a great idea. Then we started talking about the benefits of doing that, and then how we would do it, and what we have to do in order to do that, and so forth. But moving through that taught me that, maybe, oh, and in fact, here's the good part. This is the God part. She said, where'd you come up with that idea? I said, God told me. So she couldn't fight with me on it. No, I'm just kidding. The point being is that she listened to me, and it was like, oh, great. So now we are going to go on a new adventure, which is to give to somebody a really good fifth wheeler. And that's the sales pitch.
Good job.
Because it'll be in great shape by the time somebody gets it. And they'll get something for a lot less than if they had to buy it fresh, new. Anyway, back to the story. So the community, and I think when I read the story, I thought of our community. They became seekers, willing to explore challenging topics and situations with openness and accountability. I think of us because we do that all the time. I don't know if you know this, some of you do, some of you don't, but majority of our practitioners, our board members, and a couple other people are reading a book called Community. And I've asked them to be dedicated to this because it's about opening up to the possibilities. Instead of Reverend Suzette telling you what to do, it's about, what do you want? So we're all reading that together. We have people taking classes. I think we have a class now of 8 or 9, 10 people. That's the exploration. Through those classes, what happens is that we start to open up to each other. And now we're on Zoom, which you would think would not be very personal, but we have become so loving to each other online that we see the emotions, we feel the emotions, we know when someone's going through something, and we're not afraid of it because we're all there. And it's just an incredible experience. So that's the openness, that's the accountability. And then we start to say, okay, what do we want? How do we create this? Just like the village. They said, what do we really want? So the idea here is that in the village, they all became willing, just like we are here. I think we have a great community because we all are willing to try something different. And then the teeter-totter, back to the story, in the village remained a symbol of balance. And it was a constant reminder to everyone that came in the village that this community worked together, and they worked for wholeness and to be in balance with life. So, that's the end of the story. But what does it all mean? What does it all mean? So, it meant that the continuum of life, openness allowed us to gain perspective from both sides, transcending the binary, which is just the one way, and embrace the inclusivity of encompassing nature of the existence of their community. Everything made sense. It all came together. The teeter-totter and the scale symbolizes the equilibrium within the wholeness of life. That's true about what we do now. We're way off. Anybody been off this week? You know what I mean? Yeah. We have to come back. And it's when balance is achieved, we can truly experience the richness of the depth of the journey. They embrace the shadow. How many people have done work embracing the shadow? Anybody? Good. Oh, all of you. That is wonderful. I say that because a lot of times we don't want to do there. We don't want to go there. We want to stay out in the happy land, but it's not there. The thing is, when we go through the shadow, we discover something different about ourselves. And then that difference, and of course what I say here, is that once we learn that lesson, whatever it is, we start to give it away. People need us. Do you realize how much people need what we're teaching right now? They need us. And then the last one, and wholeness embraces all aspect of truth For it is the interplay of shadows and light that we find balance and enlightenment. We have to look at it and not be afraid of it. How many of you are not afraid of the shadow anymore? Very good. Very good. Now, I have to tell the truth today. This is the scary part, right? The truth is, when I was looking at this, doing this on AI, I said, okay, give me some quotes now. I know, isn't that terrible? So this is pretty incredible stuff, this new AI. I'm still kind of playing with it and looking at it. But I said, give me some quotes of people who have, over the ages, who've worked through the shadow. Because, you know, the only thing that this new technology does is it really saves you time. It doesn't really do anything else. It just picks things that are relatable, and we'll see where that goes. And you have to be aware that some things are not true. That's the other part of it, just like life. Anyway, so I found 4 famous authors who were searching for the same answers. And to me, this is important because we think that we just have the shadow in our own life, right? No, it's been going on forever. Shadow work is forever. So it's important that we know that we're relating to all these wonderful people. Rumi said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. That's really, I think about my heart. That was where the wound was for me. The only way out is through it. Is through it. I should say it. Robert Frost. We have to go through it. You know, out of the people that I'm working with in different capacities, that's the one thing I have to say to one is keep moving through it. Keep moving through it. It may be uncomfortable. It may feel frightening. It may feel like nothing's going to happen. But the truth is it will. As we move through it, the lights start to come. In fact, I was thinking about this one quote. When I was going through my shadow, I didn't know where to go. And thank God my friends dropped me off at a Science of Mind church. And they had a lot to offer. And so what I said to myself was, how do I get through this part that's so hard in my life? Is I said, well, I see they have a Monday night round circle group. They have a class I can take. They have a Sunday service I can do. And then maybe I go to the beach or I go down to Balboa Park. And so I created a routine. So I had 4 days of light and 3 days of darkness. And then, but what happened is because I was dedicated, and that's the key here, it's the dedication to getting through the light. And I see Mary going, yeah. Is as you dedicate yourself to going through and finding the light, what happens is the darkness starts to go away. And you start to find yourself. And you start to find the new you. And that's what's so cool. That's what's so cool. Is that when you start to find the new you, you're not afraid anymore. I ask the questions that nobody wants to ask anymore. Right? You guys all know that, right? Yeah. Because I know that somebody else is thinking what I'm thinking. And it's okay. And it's not, I'm not trying to harm, I'm trying to move forward, grow forward. All right, so what do we have here? Maya Angelou says, we delight in the beauty of butterfly, but rarely admit the changes it has gone through to achieve that beauty. It has to lose its head. And metaphorically, we have to lose what's in our brain so that we can recreate the good stuff. It's the same thing. And then Aristotle and NASA says, it's during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light. That's that part about creating the different ways. We can't, if we stay in the darkness will hold on to us. But if we just say, okay, I'm just gonna do a little bit today. I'm gonna go to the beach. I use that as an example. You, like my volleyball player here. Because the beach has a higher vibration. It has sunlight. It has the water, you know, you can go kick it. You can sit on the beach and discover that you own the whole thing, that nobody owns it, but everybody owns it. You can make discoveries about yourself in a couple hours, because by the time you leave the beach, you feel better. And it's not because Reverend Suzette said so. It just is. Where's Rob? His shirt that we're going to make that says, "It is what it is." It just is. The thing I said a few weeks ago, and how much time do I have? A little bit? Is that the light and the dark coexist together. If we know that, we accept that, we go, okay, great, then we can kind of move forward and not think about how do I get there. It's more about knowing that it's there. So what are the spiritual principles? I have a lot here, and I think I will better lock this or I'll be in trouble. I'm just going to summarize some of it. We need to be aware there are spiritual laws. That's number one. It's just like gravity. If I drop this, it's going to fall. There are spiritual laws that are natural laws that are in the universe, and we're here to follow it. If we know that, and if you've all been in the darkness, then you know what I'm talking about. You go out and you hurt somebody, guess what? You might get hurt yourself. It's like you got to know that works. We have to overcome our fear with consciousness. I've said that before. I won't go into that. But if we're conscious that, okay, I'm in fear. How many people drive a lot? Anytime you had a fearful thought driving, especially with the Tesla now, right? You have to be really cautious of that. But it's the mind that's making that up. So you can always create a new picture as you're driving. That happens to me on occasion. The other thing is we have to remember the principle of a mental equivalent. Everybody know what that is? Yes, no?
Yes.
Maybe not. Okay. Mental equivalent means that if you want to achieve something, you want to keep your mental abilities moving in the direction of what you want. So I'll use my car outside. Well, I wanted a white car, and I wanted a Toyota, and I didn't know where and when I was going to get it, how I was going to get it, all that stuff. So I just kept thinking, here are the qualities that I wanted, and I had no clue as to when that was going to happen. And it just so happened, right? Another story, that I was driving down, 94, and I thought, I'm going to stop in there. I'm going to just stop in and see what they have. And guess what? It was like the third car, and I went, that's it. That's it. It was just by putting my mental equivalent of what I kind of wanted, and then I just kept refining what's more about this, what's more about that. And then now I have a really great car. And it's not brand new, and I didn't pay $40,000. Yay. Point is, in order to manifest what you want, you have to think about what you want. This is something a little different, but I think it's important. I talk a lot about my own little stories. The only reason I do that is so that you'll think of your own self. Because your story is just as important as my story. And when we're surrounded by other people that are going through these situations, these times, we need to acknowledge that their story is just as important and encourage them. Be the ones to encourage them to move through those stories and know they're going to be okay, even though it doesn't look like it. I had somebody call me this week from an institution and says, I feel like I'm stuck here. I can't get out. I said, you're not stuck. I told them the opposite because I know that they're not stuck and I know they will get out. Because I know they're aware of themselves and they will move forward. But I could have said, I'm so sorry. I could have made them feel like, they're destined to be there forever. But I didn't, because I know differently. And that's what I want to encourage you to do when you're with somebody, to know they're going to get through that. Help them out. This is a hard one sometimes, but it's learn to navigate all the emotions that we have, even in the midst of them. I always love it when I raise my voice. And I don't think that I'm raising my voice, but I do. And so I get reminded that I'm right here. I'm right here. Do you know what I'm talking about, anybody? Yeah, you got it. Okay, good. Learn from your shadow. Don't be afraid of your shadow. What are the lessons? So if there's something you're going through, ask your shadow, what is it I need to know? What needs to be revealed here so that I can heal it? I can move through that. Ask it, and you know what it's going to do? Anybody have an answer?
It'll tell you.
It'll tell you. So ask it. It's a friend. It's a friend. And then apply the science of mind. Have you had enough of this? Have I convinced you today? All right, so I'm going to conclude with this. Each one of our lives is a tapestry. Each one of them are different. I remember when I first started in Science of Mind, and I kept thinking, how do these people get this? How do they really figure it out? And then I realized that everybody has their own little world. So if you could imagine, each person here has a little world on their head, and they're all spinning. And all we have to do then is to interject how are we moving through our own little worlds, and then to apply it to ourselves. Once we learn the lesson, then to give it away. Just know that you're perfect, whole, and complete just the way you are. There's nothing you have to do. Just be. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about today, just keep showing up. You'll figure it out in time. We have some literature in the back that's from the original UCSL, I can't remember anymore. The original language, and it was so complicated. I said to somebody a few weeks ago that I don't know how I ever learned this stuff, how I ever learned it. The only way I learned it was by experiencing it and by going through the light. That's how I learned it. And then I still someday go, well, how does that really apply? But it's like we have to move through our lives knowing that we're doing the very best that we can. So always seek balance and know that you're perfect, whole, and complete. And then, really enjoy your story. It doesn't feel like it's a good thing, but enjoy it because it really is a good thing. Over time, you go back and go, oh, I learned this from that, and I learned this from that, and I learned this from that. So, and if you're having difficulties, you have Candace, you have me, you have Jerry, and Natasha, and Mary, and Sylvia, and Jody. We're all here to support you. So don't be afraid to ask, because we have no judgment on it. We just know that what you're moving through is the thing that needs to be healed, revealed, and then you become you shift. Your whole life shifts a little bit. So, we're going to do our affirmation here in a minute, but I do want you to, I'm going to ask someone to hand these out. We may need some extras, but I just want to mention what these are about. So go ahead and do that. This is for you to, to know that these ideas are here about just as constant reminders of who you are, what's possible, the things I've talked about today. And they're there to help you shine your light in the darkness. I have a couple extra. Anybody need one? Okay, there's some extras here. And if you would like, those of you that are online, if you would like a copy of this, just email me or text me and I'll send it to you. But they're Science of Mind principles. We talk about them, but we never say, well, here's what they really are. John, did you get one? You got one? Give them both one. Because there's no mystery here. All these principles are really principles of every religion that's out there. We just try to have you focus in these things so that you realize how great you are. So, let's do our affirmation. And Twinkle Twinkle is back, knowing that there's something really incredible happening today as you discover and acknowledge yourself for who you are. So we'll do this 3 times. First time is we whisper. I use the whisper as we're talking to our soul. The second one is our normal voice, because then we're talking to us. And then the last one is we say it as loud as we can. We should open that door and tell it the world this. So, you ready? Let's do it. My stars shine. My star shines brightly within the light and the shadow. And real loud. My star shines brightly within the light and the shadow. Thank you very much.